Thanks for that, Klaus. Yeah, as Klaus says, Conor Madden's my name, and I'm the head of sales with TitanHQ. It's actually our third Wi-Fi Now event, I'm delighted to say. And the last couple of times we were here, we spoke about our cloud-based web content filter, which is one of the things that we do. But in preparing for this year, Klaus came across quite strongly with us and said, look, talk to them about how they can make money. It's all about monetizing Wi-Fi. How can they make money? And it's a theme that we've had always at the Wi-Fi Now shows that we've participated in. So in talking about it internally and in looking at it, we kind of said, okay, number one, it's a speed presentation, as Klaus says. I've got 15 minutes in front of the people who are making money out of Wi-Fi, and I got to convince them how they want to make more money out of it. So no pressure from me up here. But I suppose in all being very serious about it, I am in front of the Wi-Fi industry, or a proportion of it, and you guys have been making money out of Wi-Fi quite effectively for quite a while. And I suppose when the challenge comes down to us to say, Conor, talk to them about how they can make money, as we look at a slide like this, and it's got things like advertising, it's got things like data. You're hearing about, the last presenter there, how important the user data is and the user experience to the people who are offering Wi-Fi. When we look at it, and especially given, I suppose, the unique view that we have on it, there's one thing that never appears on any of these slides. That's a gaping hole for us, and certainly from our perspective, we describe it as the elephant in the room, okay? And again, it probably comes from the fact that we don't just sell to the Wi-Fi industry. We're a security company. We sell across the entire spectrum, okay? Nobody's immune from security threats nowadays, so we sell to everybody. So when we talk about the elephant that's in the room, and I talk to an opportunity that's in front of people in the Wi-Fi sector, security is it. Now, some people may nod their heads, and I'm going to ask some if I was a cynic, I'd ask some cynical questions, and I'll ask those in a few minutes. But just when we talk about security, and specifically with Wi-Fi networks, just a couple of small facts. One is that Kaspersky, the antivirus supplier, says that 25% of hotspots pose a major threat to personal data. A major threat, not just a threat, it's a major threat to personal data. IDC, who say there's about 100 million hotspots out there, claim that there's a minimum of about 25% that don't have any security at all. Okay, so a quarter of the networks out there, we're not protected at all as users on them. Okay, and that's what we see as a huge opportunity out there, and that's certainly something that I want to try and convey to you in the next couple of minutes. But before I talk specifically about Wi-Fi, I just want to rewind and kind of talk about my perspective, because that's what I can give you. I'm not a Wi-Fi buff or expert by any stretch, but we do sell into the Wi-Fi sector daily, and we've been doing quite well at it over the course of the last year or so. But the security market, or the cybersecurity market, by the year 2021, money markets are saying is going to be worth about $200 billion, okay? Now that includes everything, okay? There's a whole pile of products out there, and that's not necessarily specific to Wi-Fi, obviously, but a huge opportunity nonetheless. So in looking at that, and as we deal with it, we deal with different sections of it. One is email security, something we do, content filtering is another thing. But definitely with the customers that we talk to outside of the Wi-Fi space, they've got a very mature view on security and the application of security within their space. And they very much look at it not as a cost center, which, if I'm frank, generally tends to be the impression that we get when we talk to the Wi-Fi people about it, is that it is a cost center. But when you look at every other sector within the IT industry, they all start to look at it as a value proposition. In some cases, I'd say it's a do-or-die proposition with certain CTOs and technology product architects, but it's also a margin maker. And it's a margin maker, I can tell you, from where I'm standing as the head of sales of TitanHQ, it is a margin maker because it has value, okay? Again, just to talk about the people that we're talking to out there, managed service providers, of which there are many in this particular sector, we talk to them every day and every week. Managed service providers get this. These guys are charging down the road of security and selling it as a value add, okay? They already have a suite of services that they're offering their customers, but now as security starts to move to the cloud and as it starts to become easier for these people to deploy centrally, and as they've moved, I suppose, MSPs nowadays are the guys who used to be what were defined as the man in the van, the IT company that services 20, 30 customers, the larger ones, a couple of hundred customers. They go out in a van, they go on site, and they fix problems, right? As time has gone on, they've taken the man in the van out of the equation, and they're all doing it remotely now, okay? And they're adding services the whole time. They're always looking for services, and they're always looking for margin makers within a service stack that they can offer to their customers, to the SMB generally, okay? These guys get it. These guys are making money out of security, so much so that over the course of the last year or so, one of the buzzwords within the MSP space is the MSSP, Managed Security Service Provider. So these guys have carved out an entire niche for themselves where they're offering hosted secure services for a company. All of your security goes through them, okay? Service providers of all types out there need to secure their networks for various reasons, whether they're opened or closed. They're all vulnerable. VARs, value-added resellers, sell billions of dollars annually with security products. Integrators, remote management and monitoring systems, IT consultants are all a slew of people that we talk to every single day who are selling security onto their customers, who come to us looking for solutions for the various applications that their customers have. And why are they buying it? The reasons why are exactly the same reasons why people in this room would buy security, or why your customers would buy security, and nothing different, okay? The first is, and certainly we see it on Wi-Fi, we've probably seen it more in Wi-Fi than we have in other sectors, which is brand protection, okay? If you're offering a family-friendly environment to your end users, you've got to be offering family-friendly Wi-Fi, okay? We all know McDonald's and Starbucks have had great press over the last couple of years about their provision of Wi-Fi services or lack of safe Wi-Fi services in their environment. Central Parks in the United Kingdom, another big scandal a year ago. Great press generated over the thoughts of their networks not being secure for children in that environment. That's a fun park throughout the United Kingdom. Fear, the thought that the threat vector is increasing and morphing and changing the whole time. We're all vulnerable. What's next? What's going to get me? And am I protected? Okay. Expectation, especially on Wi-Fi networks. You know, gone are the days where you see the notice to say, you know, you're responsible. You don't see it as much anymore. You're responsible for whatever you access over our networks. Okay. Both regulation and laws now are evolving around it to make sure that you're responsible for what's happening over your network, okay? Less so on public networks, but again, the brand and the expectation is there. But certainly when I talk about the legal and the regulatory environment, schools can't get funding unless they're offering security and content filtering anymore. They just can't get funding. It's got to be a part of the equation. And also cost, okay? So, you know, you talk about cost, the cost of purchasing it, but what's the opportunity cost of not having it and being snagged by a breach, okay? What's the cost of your business coming down by a ransomware attack? That's somebody just quite simply clicking on a link can take a company down. For an SMB, how long can they afford to be down? A couple of days, couple of weeks? I'll tell you right now, they won't come back from it. Okay, so the exposure is absolutely huge, and they're the reasons why people are buying security. But the ultimate cost is this one. It's front page news. Nobody wants their company, or what's worse, one of your customers, to be dragged across the newspaper to say, their security didn't get it, their security didn't snag it, and that's a huge cost. And the thing I like about this slide is that people always say to me, okay, well, you know, our customer base isn't Target, our customer base isn't Starbucks, our customer base certainly isn't McDonald's. We're dealing with the small guys down the road, we're dealing with the library across the street. Well, guess what? While Starbucks and McDonald's might get the headlines, they're being attacked in the exact same way as the small to medium-sized businesses are. It's all the same threats. Okay, the big guys aren't the only ones being targeted anymore. Small businesses are being targeted daily, okay? So just a couple of cynical questions just to throw out. If I was sitting where you are, I'd certainly be asking them. And you know, the first one is, okay, these aren't necessarily my customers, to which I'd answer, absolutely they are your customers, and it's the exact same threat. So don't be put off by the fact that your customers aren't going to necessarily be in the headlines, okay? The second one is that, well, hang on, there's a $200 billion industry out there, right? There's a bunch of people who are doing this. There's a bunch of products out there, all right. You know, why am I going to get involved in a very well-established business already? To which I'd answer and say, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a whole pile of products out there. There's a whole pile of legacy products out there. And there's a whole pile of products out there that are forging themselves into being solutions and positioning themselves as solutions for the Wi-Fi market, okay? And I can tell you right now from where I'm sitting that there isn't a plethora of products out there that actually respond to it, okay? Those products require hardware on site. Those products generally are quite complicated and technical, and ultimately they need management. They're all the things that your customer's saying, I don't want to pay for. I don't want hardware on site, and I don't want you guys on and off here and billing me for every minute. And if you're doing it as part of the cost, you can't afford to send your engineers on site to fix something when it's broken, okay? So the answer, it doesn't lie in the conventional security products that we have out there that potentially, you know, could protect an enterprise or that exist in a data center of an enterprise as they deploy these things. So I suppose the last question that I'd ask if I was you would be to say, well, okay, but this doesn't apply to me. I do X or I do Y or I only do a certain component of IT within the Wi-Fi space. And I'd come back to you and I'd say, really, I'd really stop and I'd have a really good hard think about it, because I'd say half of the use cases that we've come across, particularly in the Wi-Fi arena, aren't things that we thought of, aren't things that our product engineers necessarily thought of. It's customers coming to us to say, can we do this and can we do that? We realize that security is important. We see an opportunity there and can we do it? A couple of examples. First is how the access point manufacturers are looking at layering security into their cloud platforms, okay? Because they see the value, because they can sell it as a premium service, because they're selling it as monthly recurring revenue. What better form of monetization can you get than monthly recurring revenue? It's the panacea, really, isn't it? The second one is the marketing platforms, the capital portals, the platforms that are out there that are looking and that are monitoring the users that are out there. They're layering content filtering and security into their solutions so that they can give it to their customers. And finally, the telco space is definitely looking at this and definitely looking at and some of them are doing it already, offering premium services in the form of security to a certain layer of customer, okay, who's going to buy it off them. All right, so regardless of what your angle is in the business, we're seeing it from all angles, where there's people from all angles of Wi-Fi provision and the technology around Wi-Fi, where they're offering security in one way, shape, or another, but not enough, okay? And again, I can really only speak to what I know and what we see every single day, and I'll tell you, since I stood on this stage a year ago, we have, and I know this because we just prepared our report to the board for our Q1 sales, we've increased our sales threefold in the Wi-Fi sector alone over the last year in selling security into that space, okay? Not necessarily to OEMs, although there are a few of them, but to end users. We're selling to national brands who have outlets. We're selling to smaller companies that have multiple offices who are deploying their IT over Wi-Fi rather than a wired network, and a whole plethora of other companies. But we've seen a threefold increase in just Wi-Fi deployments alone in our WebTitan Cloud product over the course of the last year, okay? So I suppose if I'm going to conclude, there's just a couple of things that I'd like to say, and I suppose, I'm a sales guy, and, when people say, talk about easy, it's something that always gets me slightly concerned, because I don't think anything's easy. Nothing's easy in sales, and it's certainly not easy when it comes to security. However, what I can say in terms of, doing away with misnomers, where people would say security is entirely complex and I don't necessarily have the staff to deal with security. You don't need to, okay? In cases where the technology is moving to a space where it can be delivered via the cloud, one example I'll give you is over the course of the last month, we've taken on a particular customer who has 1,700 locations across the globe, and we rolled out a security layer to all of their APs and all of those 1,700 locations over the course of 3 days, okay? So it's not necessarily easy, but what I will say is that it's decidedly less complex than a lot of the solutions that you're seeing out there, okay? So it can be done. So just to finish, I'd say that security is definitely something that we position as a value proposition. We feel that the rest of the IT sector look at it in a bit more of a mature way than the Wi-Fi sector do, and we believe there's a huge opportunity in there. We would say that, wouldn't we, if we were a security company? But what I'd say is, rather than me talk about the technicalities of it, we're at booth number 10 inside here. Come and talk to us over the course of the next 3 days. And in the meantime, thanks for listening.
Don't go away yet. And I just have, and I love the backstory sometimes, to these conferences, because you've been with us for a couple of times now, and you just shared with me earlier today, all the partnerships that you've formed at least in part, as a consequence of coming to Wi-Fi now. The only other thing I wanted to say was we've had a whole bunch of security companies, be involved with this event and so on. And frankly, we've never had anybody, to take off that has taken off specifically within the Wi-Fi segment like that. So it's a testament to your products, sir, and good for that. Good
Thanks
for
very
you.
Much. I was expecting a tough question, but that'll do.